Dot, 34 years old, $47,000 in debt. Not glamorous debt, not "I funded a startup" debt. Credit cards, a personal loan, a medical bill he genuinely thought was covered. The kind of debt that shows up at 2 a.m. and sits on your chest while you stare at the ceiling, pretending you'll figure it out tomorrow. For 8 months, Dot did what most people do with debt. He avoided it. Bank statements unread, credit card app deleted. Every time the number crept into his head, he drowned it in Netflix or a beer or both. He told himself he just needed to get through the week first, then the month, then maybe after the holidays he'd sit down and deal with it properly. You already know how that went. His cortisol was through the roof, sleeping badly, snapping at his partner, missing workouts, producing mediocre work at a job he used to be good at. He thought he was tired. He was actually terrified. The debt wasn't just a financial problem anymore. It had become a psychological virus, quietly infecting every part of his life while he pretended not to notice. And here's the cruel twist. The more he avoided it, the worse the anxiety got. The worse the anxiety got, the less he functioned. The less he functioned, the more the debt actually grew. He thought he was protecting himself. He was feeding the monster. This is not a story about Dot getting lucky. This is not a story about a windfall, a side hustle, or a winning lottery ticket. This is a story about what changed when Dot stopped running. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain when you're in debt. Debt stress is not just feeling bad about money. That's a dangerous oversimplification. What's actually happening is a full-spectrum threat response, and most people have no idea it's running in the background every single day, quietly degrading their ability to think. A 2013 study published in Science, yes, the journal Science, found that financial scarcity alone consumes significant cognitive bandwidth. The researchers measured the equivalent of a 13-point drop in IQ in people preoccupied with financial worries. 13 points. That's not a bad day. That's the difference between sharp and foggy, between strategic and reactive, between making a plan and binge-watching your anxiety away at midnight. Your brain does not distinguish between a lion chasing you and a debt collector calling. Both activate the same primal threat system. Cortisol floods your body. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control, goes partially offline. Think about that for a second. The mental system you need most to solve a debt problem is the exact system that debt stress suppresses. That's not a character flaw. That's neuroscience. So what do people do? They avoid. Avoidance feels like relief in the short term. Your nervous system gets a temporary break from the alarm signal, but the debt doesn't pause because you stopped looking at it. The interest doesn't care that you're overwhelmed. The minimum payments don't care that you're tired. Psychologists call this the ostrich effect, a term coined in behavioral finance. People quite literally look away from negative financial information even when it would benefit them to know it. Studies show investors check their portfolios less frequently during market downturns. Same mechanism, different scale, same damage. Here's where it gets interesting. Stress is not inherently bad for you. Let me say that again because it's uncomfortable and most people skip over it. Stress is not your enemy. A landmark study by Stanford psychologist Kelly McGonigal, which analyzed data from 30,000 adults over 8 years, found that people who experienced high stress but did not believe stress was harmful had among the lowest mortality rates in the study, lower even than people with low stress. The people who died at higher rates? Those with high stress who believed it was harmful. The stress didn't kill them. The belief about the stress killed them. This is called stress inoculation, and it's the core mechanism Dot was missing. Stress is a signal. Debt stress is your nervous system screaming, something important is at risk. Pay attention now. We've been conditioned to treat that alarm as a stop sign. It's a starting gun. Now let's talk about systems, because motivation without a system is just mood, and moods change with the weather. There's a concept in cognitive behavioral therapy called behavioral activation. The simplified version: action precedes motivation. You do not wait to feel ready to start. You start and the feeling follows. Readiness is a byproduct of doing, not a prerequisite for it. Most people have this backwards. I'll tackle the debt once I feel less anxious about it. Wrong direction. Tackle the debt, the anxiety reduces, not the other way around. Debt reduction is a system problem. It needs a system solution. Not willpower, not a pep talk. A structured, repeatable process you can run even when you're exhausted. The two most studied frameworks are the debt avalanche, paying highest interest first, mathematically optimal, and the debt snowball, which targets the smallest balance first to generate psychological wins. Research from Northwestern University found the snowball produces better adherence, not because it's smarter math, but because small wins release dopamine. Dopamine increases engagement, engagement increases adherence, adherence produces results. The system works because it's designed around human psychology, not ideal human behavior. Which one is better? The one you actually do. There's one more piece, and this is where most people stop before they start. Reframing. A 2012 Harvard study found that how you narrate a challenge to yourself directly affects your performance on that challenge. The story you tell about your debt determines your behavior around your debt. I'm drowning in debt produces helplessness. I have a specific financial problem with a specific set of documented solutions produces agency. Agency is the only fuel that drives consistent action. You cannot outsource it, you cannot supplement it. You build it by doing the uncomfortable thing and surviving it. Dot didn't need a bigger salary. He didn't need a lucky break. He needed a different story and a repeatable system. Here's what Dot did. He sat down on a Tuesday night, no phone, no TV, and he looked at the number, all of it, every account, every interest rate, every minimum payment. He wrote it on paper, in ink. He didn't flinch this time. He looked at it the way an engineer looks at a broken system, not with shame, but with curiosity. Where's the failure point? What's the fix? He chose the snowball method. He had 3 debts. He put every extra dollar toward the smallest one. It took him 4 months to clear it, $41 at a time. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a viral moment. It was boring and consistent, and it worked. When that first account hit 0, something shifted. Not in his bank account, in his brain. He had evidence, real, first-hand, undeniable evidence that the system worked. The stress didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It went from threat to challenge, from "I can't survive this" to "I know exactly what to do next." That's the transformation. Not a windfall, not a shortcut. A system applied with enough patience to generate its own momentum. Dot isn't out of debt yet. He's got a long road ahead. But he shows up every month with the same methodical precision of someone who has learned to use stress as a signal, not noise. He didn't conquer his debt. He changed his relationship to the alarm. And that changed everything. Debt is not a moral failure. It's not evidence that you're broken or reckless or beyond help. It's a math problem wrapped in an emotional response that your brain was never originally designed to handle at this scale. The science is clear. Stress can be fuel if you let it. Systems outperform willpower every single time. Perception of control reduces anxiety. Action precedes motivation, not the other way around. You don't need to feel ready. You need a list, a method, and the willingness to start on a Tuesday night. If any of this hit differently today, if that 2 a.m. chest sit moment felt a little too familiar, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you want more no-nonsense frameworks for the real financial pressure most channels won't touch. And drop a comment below. What's your biggest mental block around money? Not the number, the feeling. I read every one.